Hello and welcome to the Real Estate Macro Podcast. Joining me today is my friend Jeffery Pollack. Jeffery, welcome to the call.
Thanks, Doc. Good to see you as always.
Absolutely. Welcome aboard. And for those who don't know, Jeffery, can you tell us a little bit about GParency and what you're working on?
So the simplest at its base, we help find and finance commercial real estate. We like to tell people when you become a GParency member, you've basically gotten your own in-house acquisitions team, as well as your own in-house financing team, all as part of one membership model.
And it really is unique in a way. And maybe it's going in stealth mode a little bit. We were talking about this a little bit, that it's kind of like people aren't really catching on to what's really unique about it. So can you tell us a little bit about the why the map feature is so cool and what people can really benefit from it?
So, I mean, the first part of it is the pricing structure. There's nobody else in this space that has any sort of subscription model to get you access to as many listings as we do at a price like we do. For us, it's $5,000 a year. It's a whole team. We don't charge seats. We don't charge monthly like that. We are here to share with you. You know, if you'd have to pay your own in-house team to do all this work, so you wouldn't be paying for my subscription. The same. So we made it a price that's affordable for everybody, whether you're the little guy, what we call internally the acquisition Alice, or the big guy, GP Gary. It's affordable. It's 40. We today have almost 40,000 properties listed. We have sales comps on that map. We have finance comps on the map. We have searchability. We've added recently what we call our alerts function, which means that if there's something that happens, a price of a property that you're looking at, if that drops, we'll let you know. You'll be the first one to know if there's a specific area you're interested in, you want to know something else comes up in that area. Again, we can send you an email the minute that happens. That gives you that leg up, sort of as if you were getting all of our properties off market, but you're getting them on market. So you have that off market advantage on market properties. That's just kind of huge. The other piece of it that, we have it's overlaid on a Google map. You can click Street View. You can see it all in that same space. You don't have to go to 6 different places to see all the information.
And I think that's kind of an underrated feature as well. I mean, you spend all that time, you got like 7 different screens open, and you're trying to piece it all together, and it really is sharp at how. And I was really blown away. And again, currently, I'm not doing a lot of acquisitions in that actual space, but I have to say, if you're doing any kind of acquisitions work at all right now, having it all in one stop, one view, and the ability to look at it in one map is incredible.
Right, and the other data points that we give you that maybe some other places may not give you. I mean, we're giving you broker information. Who's the listing broker? We're also proactively, constantly updating our listings. We have a team that's dedicated to making sure as best as we can that the listings are updated. So it's not like somebody just uploads something and it sits there for 6 months and you're now finally finding it 6 months later and saying, hey, wait a minute, this is a great idea. This is a great purchase. Then you go to find out, yeah, it's already been sold 3 times over. We're constantly updating. We're constantly networking with our members as well as other people. I talk to Doug probably once a week at this point.
Yeah.
They'll tell you maybe it feels like 4 times a week, but we're and then there are a number of other
I give you a ton of credit. You were definitely in the space and networking hard, and I really appreciate that because you really are plugged into the space and really working hard with other sponsors, syndicators, lenders, brokers. I mean, you name it, and they're in the field. Jeffrey's got his hand on the pulse, literally, of the business, and I think it's a credit to what you're working on for sure.
Well, thank you for that. So yeah, so one of the nice things about that is when I talk to somebody and I know I know there's a property for sale just through networking, I'm going to go back to my team and say, hey, I'll look at the map. If I don't see it on the map, I'm going to tell my team, wait a minute, I know this is for sale.
Right.
We're going to add it. It doesn't have to be technically on market. It doesn't have to. It could be a pocket listing. It could be not listed at all. But as soon as I'm talking to somebody and I hear about it, we're going to go ahead and try and verify the information as best we can, get it on the map. One of the things we've done now, which is incredible, is we have our new program. We call it the credits program. And that's an incentives program for our members. We're incentivizing people to give us information for the simple reason that the more information we have, the more we can share with the other members and the more value we can add to them. So if you give us we just actually released a new promo. It's called, what we call it, our 3 for 30 program. If you give us information, if you give us 3 listings that we don't have access to already, and we go and add those to the map based on your information, we're going to give you 30 days free.
Oh, that's really a really nice opportunity, a nice bribe, I would say.
Well, we like to think of it as, just an opportunity for us to learn more, because again, the more that we know, the more we can pass on to our members and the more they see the value in what they're getting.
That's for sure. And can you tell us a little bit about the different food groups? Would you say there are certain groups like industrial? It really covers the gamut, doesn't it?
Well, as you know, I come from the kitchen. First, there are starches, proteins. And if you ask a woman, there's also another thing called chocolate.
Oh yeah,
That's a
it
and
is a
sometimes
separate food
ice
group,
cream.
isn't it? Yes.
Sometimes ice cream is another one. But
That's right.
on a serious note, typically speaking, when it comes to our listings, we have really it runs the full gamut of anything that you call commercial real estate, whether it's multifamily, 5 doors or more, whether it's office buildings, it's retail space, it's hotels. We have all those listings there. We have warehouse space. We have commercial, just commercial flex space. It's really the listing has so many different asset classes and it has the ability to search out and filter out what is it that I'm looking for. So I can just click a little checkbox and see it and not have to be kind of bombarded by all the other properties that don't fit my buy box.
And when they add properties to it, it feels like it's really like a real time. Like it doesn't look like it takes very long at all for stuff to pop up in there.
So we're priding ourselves on the information that we're sharing and the accuracy of the information as much as we can. So the minute we hear something, I'm going to send a message to my team and we're going to put it up there as soon as we can verify that it's accurate. Obviously, we don't want to send you on a goose chase. So we're going to try to ascertain what's real, what's fake. Unfortunately, sometimes we do get information that's not 100% accurate. So it does take some amount of time, but we do try our best to get it up as quickly as we can. We also have relationships with many, many brokers, and those brokers are trying to get their information out to as many groups of people as they can. So they're going to send it to us, and we're going to upload those also. So those relationships that we have with the brokers are also going to help just the speed of information.
That's really fascinating. And so when you're looking for properties, I guess the best thing to do is to have folks book a time with you to actually get a demo, because it really is hard to describe the usability of the features, because it's a nice map and you could do a nice geographic search if you have a real target. So again, I guess the main thing is to recommend people to reach out to you to book a time, because it's a really interesting demo.
So that's definitely something we can do. Another thing we can do, certainly if you want to reach out to me, is we have a demo video we've put out that we can send out. It's about a 6-minute video and really gives you a good breakdown of what the features are that we have on there. And the third thing we can do is we now are actually temporarily, I think it's still available. We have a 7-day trial that's available to anybody. You just have to send me an email so I have your email address. I can activate it. I did have up last week. I have to verify that it's still active. Where I can get you a 14-day trial as well. But certainly just seeing it either through the demo video or booking a Zoom call with me, I could show you pretty much all there is to see and let you get a chance to play with it with that 7-day trial.
Maybe the most unique feature, and again, I find this really fascinating. The financing side seems to be really aggressive. Can you talk to us a little bit about what GParency is doing on the finance side?
So aggressive is a funny word. I think the word that I would say is transparent to an extent, which is really what the company's name is, GP Transparency. Historically, I would say the pricing structure for financing, both for debt and equity, was based on a reality of pay to play. It used to be if your broker told the bank to do it, it happened. If you didn't have a broker with a relationship with the bank, it didn't happen. So you were really paying for the right to get it done. What's happened is the banks have gone to a much more standard system where each bank has a box, just like you have a buy box. What you'd be willing to buy, a bank has, or even an equity partner has a box. This is what I'm interested in. These are the criteria for what we're willing to finance, and then they spit out a number based on those criteria, whether you fit, you don't fit. So the reality is what the broker's value has become is basically his Rolodex, in the sense that the more that he knows and the more that his database and his knowledge base are entrenched in each lender, the more he understands what a lender's needs are at any given time, because that varies from time to time. If you have a bank that has too much cash, they're going to be a little more friendly. If they're a little shorter on cash, they may not be quite as friendly. Certain banks will like certain asset classes or certain locations more. So it's really about the knowledge base of which lender is looking for what. And that's really what you're paying for. That's your gain in having a broker. So the question that we set out to answer is that worth paying a point? And for one, is it something that warrants paying a point? On the one hand, yes, if you're a buyer, the amount of money that you've saved by having the right lender or the right equity partner is certainly going to be well worth that point on the debt side, or 2 to 5 points on the equity side. But the question is it really is there inherently that kind of value there? We feel the answer to that question is absolutely not. The reality is, it's effectively a broker. It's effectively an office job at this point. It's just a matter of knowing the who's and knowing which places you're going to get the best rates. So for that reason, we don't see why a point is warranted. The reality is also, a lot of times you'll have a deal that's $1 million deal that is much more complicated than a $20 million deal, or the other way around. So again, it just becomes arbitrary. So we want it to be transparent with our GPs, with our members, and say this is what you're paying, and we're not charging you for the pay to play. We're not charging you for what used to be reality and no longer exists. We're charging you for our time. We're charging you for the labor, and that's going to be that flat rate $11,000. Doesn't matter on the debt side or on the equity side. We'll bring you LP partners, or we'll bring you lenders for the $11,000 flat rate. We'll give you that first full service experience, just as if we were any other broker.
And you said an interesting word in there, and I want to make sure people don't miss this. You said you do have some equity partners as well that you can do offer some equity.
Yeah, so we have about 500 equity partners that we work with. They're all we would call institutional quality. There's some smaller home offices, some more the real, some more the real true institutional equity. But yes. And one of the things that's unique about our platform, which I know the syndicators won't like me for saying out loud, but when you're dealing with syndicated, right, the whole structure is I'll get $100,000 from this guy, $50,000 from the next guy, $25,000 from the next guy. The way most of our equity partners are going to work is they're going to take the lion's share of the LP stack off your hands. Mm-hmm. You're going to have one check, and it's going to fill 70 to 90% of your LP stack.
And do they have basically a floor where you probably like it needs to be above 10 million, or have they been a little more flexible on that?
So typically speaking, because they are writing one check, and they are they're coming on almost as they're coming on as a JV from the LP stack, they are expecting to take. They need to make their money make sense. So right. So on that side of things, we're talking usually a minimum of about 5 million. It's not a hard and fast rule, but that's the general ballpark. On the pref equity side, which we also will broker, we're talking about a 2 million.
That's excellent, because again, the having those choices are available at the speed of a phone call to Jeffery's friends. The deal on that side of at GParency, that's an incredible resource, and again, speed of execution is life. So that's really incredible.
Right, and we'll know pretty quickly from the minute we get your underwriting. We'll know pretty quickly whether it's something that there's a decent likelihood of us getting done. Particularly on the debt side, it's almost
slam dunk.
It's almost a slam dunk yes or a slam dunk no in 30 seconds.
Yeah.
On the equity side, it's a little bit harder. Even if we fit the boxes, there is a little more human element there. So there's a little more. There's definitely a little bit more of likelihood that we'll guess wrong. But again, we'll know pretty well what the likelihood is that we're going to get it done or not pretty quickly.
Yeah, for sure. Depending on if they have a little bit more of a track record, I'm sure they're more attractive to the institutional players, and that's just part of the game. For sure.
There's that. There's also just the nature of the deal. Is it, how are they going to see the deal? Typically speaking, value add deals are something that these types of players are more excited about seeing. If it's something where somebody's buying something and saying, "Hey, it's just being mismanaged, but we know how to manage it better," that's something they're going to be less excited about.
Well, I have this toxic waste facility I'd like to put next to the elementary school. You think they'll help me out?
You mean the children?
No, I'm just being facetious. It's like you see some deals and they're like, "What are you thinking on that?" And so it's like, yeah, we didn't know. Let's say no quickly and save each other time. Just being a little facetious there, but really, Jeffery, is there anything else that they need to know that we haven't covered? I want to make sure that they get a full view of what their offer is.
So there are another two products on the equity side, on the financing side, that we haven't really even touched. There's our base product. What that simply is, when you come in as a member, we're about sharing. Typically speaking, brokers are incentivized to keep as much close to the chest as they can, close to the best as they can. We like to share information. We want you to know that you are getting the best you can for your money. So as a member, if you come in, you sign us your underwriting, we'll talk to you a little bit. We'll try and get an understanding. What is it that's important to you in terms of any given deal you might have on the table? Is it recourse? Is it leverage? Is it just the bottom line interest rate? We'll find out from you, the asset class, location. Based on that, we'll do what we call a lender introduction. We'll match you up with the lenders or the equity partners that are most likely to work with you. We'll introduce you to those players. We'll introduce you to the lending officers at those lending institutions, and you can go ahead and broker that yourself. And that doesn't cost you a penny more. That's included in the membership. And then we have a kind of middle level, and that's a $4,000 per transaction. We call it the shop the deal, where we'll take it to market. We'll help you package it up. We'll take it to market for you. We'll negotiate a little bit with those lending partners, with those potential equity partners, and get you term sheets in your hands, and then you can go ahead and finish on your own. So basically what comes down to is, included membership, you get that introduction. $4,000 will get you the term sheets. $11,000 will give you that full service brokerage experience.
That's interesting. You have some tiers there too. So if they feel more confident in running with it once they have a term sheet, that's fascinating.
But I mean, typically speaking, when you have, again, going back to that original GP Gary or acquisition analyst, as we refer to them internally. So the acquisition analyst who's just getting started might need a little more hand-holding, might need a little more help getting things through. But as people have been doing it for longer and understanding more about the art of the deal, so to speak, and the all the back and forth, and are prepared to deal with when a lender decides that at the last minute that they want something different, they want extra paperwork and so on and so forth, or they just want to blow things up and need somebody to smooth things over. So somebody who's been doing it for a little while might be more comfortable kind of working that piece of things on their own. Whereas if you're just getting started, that might kind of make you fluster and lose things. So it gives you the opportunity to even save a little more if you'd like, or pay a little more and get a little more handholding, whichever one it may be that's helpful for you.
And Jeffrey, is there any other aspect of it that we've left out? I want to make sure we've covered the gamut here before we transitioned into the let's get to know Jeffrey a little bit part of the podcast.
Oh, that's a surprise. I didn't know about that part. No, on a serious note, I think that we really covered the main thing. Again, just a quick recap. There's the two pieces of it. There's the finding, there's the financing. The finding is the map with all the listings. The financing is the kind of three tiers, both debt and equity. But again, it's always flat rate. We're not charging 1 point on debt, 2 to 5 on equity. And it gives us one of the things that we kind of didn't really touch on is, because it's a membership and we're not making money on the brokering, our incentives are to be aligned with you. Because if you're not happy, you're not coming back next year. I want you as a member year after year. And I'm going to do what it takes to make sure that you're comfortable, that you're happy, you're seeing the value, so that you're going to come back next year. Whereas if I'm a typical broker and I broker a deal for you and you're whatever, so maybe you won't come back and go somewhere else next time. But at the end of the day, I've walked away with $250,000.
Right. Absolutely. So really, more a relationship is the goal versus the transaction.
Correct. It's about the relationship and the flow of information back and forth. That's all it is.
I sure appreciate that. Well, now that we've covered the gamut on GParency, what is the key to cooking a really awesome brisket? Because I think Jeffrey is the person to ask about this, because I just happen to have some inside information that he's the man for brisket.
Well, what Doug is referencing is, despite the fact that I'm not from Texas, the other week we were on a networking call, and I was preparing for a small-ish get together.
Yeah.
I had smoked a full packer brisket, as well as I think something like 10 pounds of corned beef and 10 pounds of pastrami's that he watched me slicing up as we were talking.
It was torturous because it looked really great.
It was. And every now and again I would take a slice and just kind of shove it in his face that he was watching.
Yeah.
But what is the key to that? The key to it is the brisket itself, largely. Getting the right marbling, the right fat content. I'm a big proponent of doing the whole brisket together wherever possible. The fat from the second cut over the first cut just keeps it from drying out.
Interesting.
It's about the timing, and then obviously the flavoring about it is what rub are you doing? Are you brining? You're not brining. The jury is out on how to do that. One of the techniques that everybody swears by, I do it. I can't promise that it works, makes a difference, but is when you pull it off the grill, off the smoker, the first thing is to make sure you wrap it tight in foil, let it kind of seep in itself, and keep that smoking.
Oh, I see. Yeah, that's an interesting aspect too. I hadn't thought of doing it that way.
Yeah, so that's one of these things that the official experts recommend. I like to brine mine. This one I had brined in a red wine and had spices for 24 hours before I smoked it. I'll tell you, the smoke ring was gorgeous. I'm sure I could talk about this piece of cow for a long time.
Yeah, I tell you what, it looked incredible. I mean, I could literally tell it was radiating like awesomeness from the screen. Even it was like, oh my goodness, that looks incredible.
And it was really nice. It was the right amount of smoke. I mean, that's another piece of it is, on a smoker, you typically have the ability to open or close the valve a little bit more and less. And which wood are you using? Mesquite or hickory tend to have more of a flavor. Applewood is a little bit less of a flavor. Cherry wood is a little bit on the weaker side. So all these things are going to affect how much smoke and the flavors you're getting in there.
Well, if you ever decide to make a move from GParency to barbecue, Kansas City would welcome you with open arms, because you would kill it here, because we're aficionados around here, and I think you would fit in toward the top of the crowd here. I'm telling you.
Oh, either there, or I'll go join Vlad in Texas.
There we go. Vlad is very interested in the Texas market, and that's an interesting debate about. And I guess they have mustard-based stuff going on in the Carolinas, I guess. And I'm like, that's fascinating. I haven't tried that yet.
So Carolina is interesting. Yeah. It's almost like a mix of a mustard and barbecue sauce together. It's like a tangy barbecue.
That's wild. That's wild. Yeah, I'm really interested in trying it out. I've never tried it, so I'd be fascinated to see how that goes.
So Heinz has a product which is a decent take on it. There's a product that I can't say I found on the East Coast in a retail package. It's called Cattleman's Carolina Gold, Tangy Gold, something like that. It does, commercial packaging, and that's absolutely delicious. It's got a little spice, a little sweetness to it, some nice tang.
That sounds awesome. Jeffrey, aside from cooking it, do you have any other hobbies that we don't know about?
I love reading. I love learning. That's funny. I wasn't exactly the most academically inclined in school. Sitting there for hours on end was not my thing.
Oh, me either.
That's actually how I ended up cooking professionally for 10 years.
Yeah.
Because I was not going back to school ever again.
Right.
I'm not sure how you ended up a lawyer, but
was motivated. I just would put it that way. I really wanted it bad enough. But it was torturous also, though. It really was a grind. But I enjoyed it also in a lot of ways too.
Well, good. I mean, that's a big part of it, is whether you enjoy it or not. But I wasn't going back to school. That's how I ended up in the kitchen. Part of it, at least. I hope my mom doesn't see this clip when I share this story. When I was younger, my mom would be macaroni and cheese for dinner at 4:30 every day when you come home. That would be her cooking.
Yeah.
My older brother, who has a bigger mouth than I do, at one point said to her that, he wanted something different. And she said, okay, do it yourself. And then she stopped cooking.
Oh, man, that's brutal. Okay.
So that's kind of part of how I started with this, started in the kitchen was, I guess, necessity breeds innovation.
It's bizarrely fascinating. I mean, it feels maybe a little tough love-ish, but in a way, it's like it was an opportunity to grow. So maybe it was genius.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
It worked itself out.
Yeah.
And mostly paid the bills for a couple of years.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I really want to thank you so much for coming on today, Jeffrey. I think it's really been great to meet you, and I'm really excited to see how this product starts to spread a little bit, and hopefully we can be a part of your success in the space.
All right, I'm looking forward. Just, I guess, the last piece of it, because I don't think we, if anybody's looking to get a hold of me, I am very active on LinkedIn. I'm certainly active on all the CR, on a lot of different networking calls. You can call me, text me 914-288-6229, 914-288-6229.
And we will put that in the show notes as well.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah,
and then
for sure.
or my email is the letter jpollack at GParency.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jeffrey, for joining us.
All right, thanks for having me, Doug. Good to see you.
Nice to see you.